Hello, my name is Rich Howard, owner of Architectural Builder Supply. In this video is to bring you a closer look at the overview of Kaba Ilco profile cylinders. Now, profile cylinders are very common that you're going to see in residential doors primarily, even though doors that might be installed in a commercial setting as well, that are generally going to be exterior patio doors, what are referred to as patio doors, whether they're sliding or swinging, regardless of the manufacturer. Profile cylinders pretty much will always look like this sort of shape when you view it from the exterior side of the opening. So a profile cylinder is a reference to the fact that this has this specific sort of keyhole, upside down keyhole slot profile to the shape of it. Now this video is to talk about the variations of Kaba Ilco profile cylinders and how you might be able to obtain exactly what you need via a Kaba Ilco profile cylinder. Now the main advantage to a profile cylinder, and really one that may not be immediately obvious, is the ease with which to remove it from the door. If you're a homeowner and you simply want to change the cylinder because you want to change it from a specific keyway to a different specific keyway, pulling it out of the door should be very simple and straightforward, and that's generally just done by a single set screw that goes in the edge of the door. The profile cylinder will insert into the prep in the door, and then a single set screw will hold it in place. It's that simple. Now, that is certainly an advantage because anyone pretty much can change this cylinder out. The other advantage that there is the availability of different keyways, and while that's generally limited, it's not totally impossible to obtain a variety of different keyways in a profile cylinder that may suit your needs. Now, speaking from a perspective of someone who has maintained and keyed these from Kaba Ilco, that means they're going to be high quality, solid brass type of construction that will be in the cylinder housing and the cylinder plug. Access to repinning the cylinder, should that be necessary, and it likely is through these cap screws, which are removed with a small Allen wrench. There are then springs, there are driver pins, master pins possibly, bottom pins as well, and all that can be removed, and the lock can be repinned in that orientation. I don't prefer to repin these because it's more time consuming, because you cannot see what is called the shear line inside of here. You have to know the cut of the key, and you have to know the size of the pin that you're dropping in, and then I will load the driver pin and then the spring, and I'll hold that down and I'll test my operation because I can't see the shear line like you can with a standard cylinder. But the bottom line is you'll get it quick, and if you're doing a number of these, you're simply going to record the actual pin size that you're using. Let's say if you're using a universal style 3,000ths or 5,000ths pin kit, you'll be able to, within the first couple of cylinders, make quick work of it, is what I'm trying to say. Speaking of keying, these can be keyed from the factory any way that you specify, literally any way. Keyed differently, keyed alike to a specific key number, keyed differently, master keyed, single keyed differently, grandmaster keyed. However you need it done, Kaba Ilco can make that happen. Not a problem at all. This sort of cylinder is also known as a European style cylinder. And it is true, I've been in Europe and I've seen this kind of cylinder all over the place. It seems to be the standard. And why it finds itself in the American marketplace, I can't really say. The fact that you'll see it on residential swinging and sliding doors could be the fact that it could make less complicated the manufacturing process of the door, because the cylinder is literally a self-contained unit, inserts almost like a finished piece, and then inserts into the door and held in with a single set screw, as mentioned earlier. Now, moving on to how these work. There's a variety of components that are on the inside of these, but it all boils down to this. You've got a plug where the key would go, a thumb turn if you want, double cylinder, double thumb turn, half cylinder, half thumb turn, however you want that configured. There's cap screws, there's springs, there's driver or top pins, there's bottom pins. There is a cam, which you can see here. There's a couple of C-clips here and here, and then there's a cam driver that basically allows the unit to work when the key is inserted. Here's what I mean. The cam, whenever I turn the thumb turn, it's fixed. It's always going to rotate. When I put the cylinder in, let me back up. When I turn this, it has to work all the time, but do so in such a way where the exterior cylinder is fixed. You're not turning that as well. When you insert the key, the length of the key will communicate to what's called a cam plug, and that cam plug is spring loaded. When the tip of the key meets the cam plug, it pushes it in and then forces or arrests control of the cam, and that's how that operates, and everything will spin at that point. Okay, very typical sort of construction, very simple and commonplace. The design of these are such that you don't take them apart. There would be no reason to, is the bottom line. As far as you're going to get to taking it apart is possibly going to be to rekey it. That's all there is to that. Now, looking at the cylinder that you're on, how you arrived at this video. You could be on any number of scores of different variants of this profile cylinder. This video is buried in the extended description of it. There is likely in the extended description a chart or a table where you can view the different variants of the cylinder. There is below this video, or maybe above this video, a link to the manufacturer's page where you can pull up their catalog and then get to the page where you can see the matrix by which these are ordered. Here are the sort of options that can be considered. First of all, this is what's called a single cylinder or thumb turn knob cylinder. Key one side, thumb turn the other side. You can have this as a key on both sides. Why might you want that? Well, why would you want this? Well, you want to be able to just manually lock and unlock the door from the inside, and obviously the exterior has to have key control. You might want a double cylinder. Why? You might be afraid that someone will break the window, reach the hand in, turn the knob, and get in. The upside of having a double cylinder is that you all but prevent that sort of attack from happening. The downside, of course, is that you can't get out unless you have the key, so keep that in mind. In my own experience, you're going to want a double cylinder if you've got a little kit around, because it can be very easy to get out of those doors, and maybe keep your existing single or thumb turn by knob sort of cylinder, so that in the event down, a few years down the road, you're no longer concerned about an unauthorized exit from the home. You put the original equipment back in. You might also have a special circumstance by which you have only a half cylinder, where there is no trim on the exterior side, and you want a key control on the interior side, or vice versa perhaps. That would be literally one of these, just in half of the orientation, where the cylinder ends about here. You could also have the same operation where you've got half of a thumb turn, and the operation basically ends about here, and it's a thumb turn only. Okay, that would be an exterior door where there's control on the inside and nothing on the outside, meaning that it's blank, or exit only, where there is literally no trim on the exterior side of the door. Now, so you've got those different variants: single, double cylinder, half thumb turn. Then onto all of that, you need to be concerned about the length. There is an A dimension, there's a B dimension, and there's a C dimension. Now, the most common in those dimensions will be 28 millimeter, 10 millimeter, 28 millimeter. If you have something quite typical in common, you're surely going to run into that. You might want to double check that before you order this, because, a little aside here, the lead time on these cylinders can be several weeks. It's not unheard of that these will take 4, 5, or 6 weeks to manufacture. Not all the time. Some of this material we stock. But the truth of the matter is, my opinion, my belief, my guess, is that Kaba Ilco probably runs manufacturing on this cylinder type once a month. And they'll consolidate all their orders and just, put them all in at the same time. That's my opinion. That's my guess. So let's get it right before you order it. Let's eliminate any guesswork. Made-to-order cylinders like this, they're not returnable. So let's just be sure. So 28 millimeter, 10 millimeter, 28 millimeter, all very common. Double check yours. They are available in longer lengths and shorter lengths. They're available in custom lengths as well. Now, if I've not mentioned it, you can get a double turn knob as well. Forgive me. Okay. Keyways. These are available in different keyways. Not all of them are available in the same keyway, but let's discuss that now. You're going to be able to get in this a Schlage C keyway. That's typical common Schlage C keyway. This will be a 5-pin sort of cylinder, so keep that in mind. If you're running a 6-pin key blank into it, that's going to be an issue because they're only made to take, or most of them are only made to take a 5-pin length cylinder, but not all. Schlage C, Schlage E cylinder is available as well, an E keyway. You can also do in this an SF, which is the Schlage F keyway. Quite unusual, but not unheard of. You can then get the SX keyway, and that's a composite style keyway, where into the plug you can run a C, an E, and F, probably an EF and an FG as well. It's a composite keyway. It's called SX, is what that is. Other potential keyways that you can have on these cylinders are going to be a CD and a KS and a WA. So KS, I know that's going to be Kwikset. That typical sort of 1176 keyway from Kwikset, very common. You'll be able to run a Kwikset keyway. A WA, that's going to be Weiser or Falcon. Weiser E, that's not unheard of. Some Falcon key blanks will go into there as well, not all, but the standard Falcon ought to. And then we said CD was another one. That's just a typical Corbin, a 59A1 by Corbin. You can order the cylinder with that as well. Given enough volume or an order with a specific multiple, we ought to be able to have a special request from the factory to do any of the available keyways from Kaba Ilco, of which there are a couple dozen for sure. I should have mentioned that you're also going to do this in a GA or a GC keyway as a 6-pin, and those are going to be your Sargent LA and your Sargent RA through RC keyways. That Sargent LA is fairly common. That would be a 6-pin key blank. So we've talked about the different types of cylinders, the different keyways, where it applies. Finishes. You're going to be able to do these in satin chrome. That's what this is. That's the 26D. Satin brass as well. Polished brass. They will accommodate requests for custom finishes, but there's generally going to be a minimum order of like 10. For keyways for finishes, you're looking at multiples or a minimum order, or multiples of 10, I think is what we're going to deal with. All of the keying requirements, they can incorporate a request for specific keying, as I had mentioned earlier. Then there is the final sort of way to configure these is what's called cam location. There is somewhere in this extended description speaking about the location of the cam. This is 2 o'clock, as you see here, and it will match what you're looking at on the page. This can be done in different locations. Okay? 2 o'clock is by far the most common one. I cannot give you a reason, an example of where you would use a different cam location, but check your existing. If you're going to be replacing it, study where this is. Keep in mind that you're looking at it, the opposite of how I'm looking at it because it's a camera view. But keep in mind what you're looking at to be sure of what you need, as these can be ordered with the cam location in different spots. And in my experience, 2 o'clock is the common stocked cam location, and unless it's otherwise specified, it will be sent as a 2 o'clock cam location. In conclusion, they will also entertain orders for custom profile cylinders, and really what that means is a variety of the keyway, the finish, but also the length. Up to 4 3/8 overall length maximum they can accommodate. I do not recall a time when I've done a custom length cylinder longer than the 30 by 10 by 30 millimeter variant of their 6-pin version, which is the 52336 version. If you're doing a 6-pin Schlage, you can order, this is the 5-pin version, you can order the 6-pin version of this as well. It's not a problem. It's fairly common. And outside of that, the only thing left really is that these these chamber caps, those little tiny little Allen set screws that are the black areas that you see there, those are not available separately, so don't lose them. But they are an M4 metric thread by 0.7, M4-0.7 by 6 millimeter long screws. So with that information, should you need to purchase them, you should be able to do that at an industrial hardware store. I'm partial to Kaba Ilco profile cylinders. You don't really sell a lot of them. They're not really that in demand. But when it comes to all of their cylinders, their rim cylinders, their mortise cylinders, their key and knob, lever, deadbolt cylinders, along with the profile cylinders, I'm partial to Kaba Ilco because the quality is so incredibly good. Solid brass construction allows them to achieve very tight machining tolerances, and if you're a locksmith, or if you're just a building engineer, or you're someone who's rekeyed the material, you appreciate the quality of the Kaba Ilco product line, because once you pin it, you can expect that you're going to get incredibly long service life out of the material. Predictable, reliable, dependable sort of operation, and it's a hallmark of Kaba Ilco, regardless of finish, keyway, type of cylinder. You'll get factory original look-alike key blanks, so they're going to look factory original. This is obviously, not obviously, but this is a Schlage 5-pin. They look like they're factory original. Okay. In that catalog that I referred to earlier, you're going to be able to review the balance of the Kaba Ilco cylinder line, and really of note, not only with these profile cylinders, but are their deadbolts. Now, I like their deadbolts a lot because they're low profile, they don't stick out very far from the door, they're built on their mortise cylinder construction, very good strong latch bolts. You can get even a small little 2-inch back set, I believe it's 2-inch, or possibly 1.75 correction, 2-inch. You can get a 2-inch back set, 2 3/8, 2 3/4 on that. 2-inch back set's really nice because you might have a French door that's only got a 4-inch style. Okay, you're going to want that 2-inch kicked over for your cylinder to fit in there really nice, and that's a go-to, that material. You can incorporate different features into that sort of low-profile deadbolt, meaning cylinders on both sides, thumb turns on both sides, captive thumb turn, which is a neat little gizmo that when you remove the captive key, then that is locked. Handy during business hours sort of operation. Interchangeable core housings they can also provide as well. Okay? So Kaba Ilco, the name is synonymous with all things cylinder related, not only these profile cylinders. If you have any questions on the Kaba Ilco profile cylinder, their line of profile cylinders, or any other Kaba Ilco product for that matter, please feel free to reach out to us. Thank you.